I still remember how my heart pounded that morning. I was standing in front of our entire finance department, expecting a quick quarterly update. Clarissa Vane, our CEO, walked in with a stern look. Her stiletto heels clicked against the polished floor like a judge's gavel. She didn't greet anyone. She glared at me and said, "Leah, please step forward." My stomach dropped. I stepped out, unsure what was happening. Then she dropped the bomb. "Leah Collins has embezzled $85,000. Her voice echoed like a loudspeaker in my ears. People gasped. Faces turned from curiosity to shock, then disgust. I couldn't breathe. Before I could speak, security was at my side. "You are hereby terminated," Clarissa said, lifting her chin as if she held the moral high ground. "We have proof. This is non-negotiable." My cheeks burned. My coworkers whispered. I heard someone say, "She always seemed so trustworthy." I begged Clarissa for a private conversation, but she dismissed me with a wave of her hand. Security took my badge. I was escorted out like a criminal, my mind spinning. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but no words came out. As the office doors shut behind me, I realized everything I'd worked for had just slipped through my fingers in one brutal moment. I replayed the morning in my head, trying to piece together how things had escalated so fast. Just hours before that meeting, I was in my cubicle studying the financial records. Something felt off. We had a missing line item, an $85,000 discrepancy. I'd stayed late the previous night to ensure we had everything sorted for the quarterly review. That's when I spotted the strange transactions. It looked like money was being shuffled between accounts with no explanation. It popped up in my specialized finance software like a glaring red alert. My gut told me to reach out to Clarissa first, quietly. She'd always insisted on direct communication whenever we found anomalies. So I emailed her. "Clarissa, there's a large inconsistency in the Q3 ledger. Need to discuss urgently." I even attached screenshots. Then I waited and waited. No response. By morning, I had no idea she was about to accuse me of being the thief. I remember typing out a second message. "Hey Clarissa, we should talk before the meeting." But I never sent it. It wouldn't have mattered. She'd already planned my public humiliation. Leaving the building, I clutched my laptop bag, shaking. I thought, this can't be real. But the hole in my gut told me otherwise. I was being set up. The day after I was fired, Clarissa's accusations spread like a virus. She posted a short memo on the company's Slack. "We regret to inform staff that Leah Collins was discovered embezzling funds. Please direct any questions to HR." That was it. Some coworkers, people I called friends, stopped answering my texts. I saw them read my messages in real time and then vanish. My phone's screen displayed "message read" with no reply. One by one, my contacts went silent. Even after years of collaboration, loyalty meant nothing in the face of a scandal. I checked LinkedIn, looking for new job opportunities. But I started noticing that recruiters who had been eager to talk a week ago were now ghosting me too. My email inquiries vanished into thin air. One of them wrote back once, a single line, "We're sorry, but we can't proceed." Clarissa's hold on the local business community was strong. She was known for her ruthless style. People either loved or feared her. Apparently, it was safer to blacklist me than to question her judgment. Sitting at my tiny kitchen table, I felt hollow. My reputation, which I'd spent years building, was crumbling. The smear campaign was working, and I was powerless to stop it, at least for now. When my face appeared in the local business news, I felt my last shred of dignity tear away. The headline read, "Rising financial star accused of embezzlement at Vane & Co." My name and photo were right under it. I nearly threw my phone across the room. Online comments poured in under the article. People I didn't even know called me a greedy traitor and an unethical leech. My LinkedIn notifications exploded with hateful messages. One read, "How could you do this to a company that gave you so much?" Another said, "Enjoy prison, scum." I tried to defend myself. I posted one short update, "I am innocent, there's more to this story." But the backlash was immediate. Strangers demanded proof or told me to shut up. I realized I was fighting a losing battle in the court of public opinion, so I deactivated my accounts across all platforms. At that moment, I felt more alone than ever. My phone vibrated constantly, but these were no longer supportive calls. They were ex-clients asking if I'd stolen from them too. The anxiety built so high that I started avoiding my own reflection in the mirror. The label of thief followed me everywhere. Bills piled up on my kitchen counter. My savings were modest, and they drained fast once I realized nobody was going to hire me with that cloud over my name. I ended up selling my living room furniture, my couch, armchair, and even the coffee table, just to cover the next month's rent. Every day, I sank deeper into despair. I felt humiliated, broke, and isolated. I spent my nights on a mattress on the floor, scrolling through job listings that seemed out of reach. My mind wouldn't quiet down. The question, "Why me?" kept ringing in my head. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore. The numbers didn't add up. If I truly had stolen $85,000, there should have been some visible trail that I benefited. Yet my bank account had barely enough for groceries. I thought about the weird transactions, the missing documentation. That night, I paced around my empty living room, going over it again and again. A flicker of determination sparked. This was no random glitch. Someone had orchestrated it. Clarissa's moves were too fast, too public. Despite my despair, I felt an urge to dig deeper. Either I cleared my name, or I let them win, and I sure wasn't about to let them win. Just when I thought I had no one left, I got a text from Jonah. "I believe you. Let's talk." Jonah was a junior IT specialist at Vane & Co. He'd always been quiet, but whenever we chatted by the coffee machine, he was kind. A few hours after the text, I met him at a small cafe on the edge of town. He slid into the booth, glanced over his shoulder, and leaned in. "I know you didn't do it," he whispered. "I think someone planted those files. I found something suspicious in the server logs before they locked me out." My heart thumped. "What do you mean?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "They used your login at odd hours when you were out of town at that conference." I checked the IP address. It wasn't matching your home or the office. I felt my breath catch in my throat. So there was actual evidence that someone had impersonated me. "Why didn't you tell HR?" I pressed. Jonah shook his head. "They're in Clarissa's pocket. I'd be fired too." He then slipped a small thumb drive across the table. "I saved what I could before I got locked out. It's not much, but it's a start." A surge of hope replaced my hopelessness. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. That night, I inserted Jonah's thumb drive into my laptop. My hands trembled, both from nerves and excitement. This was my first real lead since the scandal broke. On it, I found a text file containing partial server logs. They showed an off-hours login under my credentials, marked with a timestamp from the exact day I was traveling. I flashed back to that trip. I had been in Chicago at a finance tech conference. There was no way I could have logged into the office system. My alibi was airtight, but seeing my username on those logs made my stomach churn. Someone had gone through a lot of trouble to impersonate me. The log also revealed an abnormal pattern. The login came from an IP address far from the office, somewhere in the suburbs. I forwarded it to myself, double-checking everything. This was the breadcrumb I needed. But the rest of the data was missing. The log ended abruptly. It was as if someone had tried to erase the trail but forgot to scrub everything. I stared at my screen, heart pounding. I had proof that I wasn't lying, and it pointed straight back to the person who had framed me. Jonah called me the next morning. His voice was shaky with excitement. "I traced the IP address," he said. "It's coming from a private home. Clarissa's home." My heart nearly stopped. Clarissa had never personally handled day-to-day finances. She was the big-picture CEO, always bragging about how she left small details to her specialists. But Jonah reminded me of something important. Clarissa wasn't the only one living in that house. Her husband, Derek Vane, was a part-time consultant for the company. He had some background in investment banking. He'd pop into the office occasionally, always carrying an expensive briefcase and wearing a smug grin. Honestly, I never liked him. I remembered a couple of times Derek had asked me weird questions about how I managed the company's financial approvals. He'd said it was for a special project, but had given no other details. I'd shrugged it off because Clarissa had told me to cooperate with him. Now the puzzle pieces were aligning. Derek might have had reason to access the system and the knowledge to forge the transactions. The possibility that Clarissa had conspired with him, or at least turned a blind eye, sent chills through me. Something big was going on, and I was just starting to see the edges. I spent the next afternoon rechecking older finance records I had saved. That's when I spotted an odd vendor name, Grayson Logistics. I recalled scanning that name a month ago but never seeing any actual products or services tied to it. Payment approvals had soared in the last quarter, all under my clearance. I dove deeper. Grayson Logistics had no real address in our main database. Then I found a note in a hidden tab referencing an offshore account ID that matched another line item. My stomach flipped. This ghost vendor was a front. Money was being siphoned out in small chunks, all authorized under my employee login. I pictured Derek at his desk, quietly transferring funds, forging the digital signatures, and waiting until the total reached $85,000. It made perfect sense. He needed a scapegoat to keep suspicion off himself. And with Clarissa controlling everything, I was the easiest target. I texted Jonah a screenshot. Fake vendor, offshore account. This is big. He replied in seconds. I knew it. I felt an anger rise inside me, mingled with fear. Now that I had proof Derek was funneling money, the question was, how do I clear my name without getting crushed again by Clarissa's power? A few nights later, Jonah called me again, voice hushed. I'm at the office. I have Derek's laptop. I almost dropped my phone. He explained he'd taken advantage of some heavy maintenance work that required shutting down part of the security system. I begged him to be careful. If he got caught, it could mean legal trouble or worse. But Jonah was determined. He said Derek had left his laptop locked in a drawer. Jonah had the IT override keys, apparently a perk of his job. An hour later, Jonah showed up at my apartment with an external hard drive in hand. I cloned his entire machine, he said, eyes wide with both excitement and terror. My heart pounded. I motioned for him to sit at my dining table, which was now also my work desk. We plugged in the drive and waited for the files to load. The folder structure was protected by multiple layers of encryption, which Jonah started cracking with a specialized tool. While it worked, Jonah looked at me nervously. If anything here confirms your innocence, we might still need more to make it stick. Clarissa controls so many people. I met his eyes. We'll do whatever it takes. For the first time in weeks, I felt a surge of adrenaline that wasn't dread, it was hope. Late that night, as Jonah's decryption tool hummed, I scrolled through Derek's old emails. One subject line grabbed my attention. Internal audit, Q3 schedule. My eyes flicked to the date. It was months before my firing. Inside, I found an email chain referencing the quarterly audit. At first, it read like standard procedure. The finance team wanted to conduct a routine check on accounts. But then I saw a short, blunt message from Clarissa to Derek. Make sure there's no noise during Q3. Right after that, Derek replied, Understood. Audit has been postponed indefinitely. That audit never took place, and none of us ever questioned it. We assumed Clarissa wanted to shift resources to an important project. It never crossed my mind that they might be hiding something. My pulse raced. This was a clear sign they manipulated the system to avoid detection. If that audit had happened, the $85,000 theft would have been caught on their end, not mine. They had planned this for months, waiting for the right moment to pin it on someone else. The puzzle was almost complete, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Clarissa's involvement went deeper than just ignoring Derek's crimes. I sensed she was the mastermind of this entire setup. I couldn't take on Clarissa and Derek alone. I needed someone with authority to back me up. That's when I reached out to Marisol, my old mentor from my graduate internship days. She was now an auditor at a major regulatory body. I trusted her with my life. Her voice was calm when I explained the situation over the phone. You're in a tough spot, she said, but if you have proof, real proof, the authorities will listen. I told her about the server logs, the cloned laptop, the ghost vendor, and the missing audit. She paused, then said, Leah, send me everything you've got. But understand, once this goes official, there's no turning back. I glanced around my bare apartment, reminding myself I had nothing left to lose. I'm ready, I said. After hanging up, I thought about the possible fallout. Derek and Clarissa had power, connections, and money. They'd fight tooth and nail to keep this quiet. But if they'd taught me one thing, it was that I had to fight just as fiercely. I stood in my kitchen, my heart pounding. If I went down in flames, at least I'd do it knowing I stood up for myself, and if I succeeded, I'd clear my name and expose them for who they really were. I decided to rattle Clarissa's cage. Using an anonymous email account, I sent a short message. What if someone finds out your husband's siphoning money through ghost accounts? Q3 numbers are messy, let's talk. I felt a strange thrill hit my gut the moment I pressed send. Minutes ticked by, then hours. No response. I checked the burner inbox obsessively. Still nothing. Clarissa was known for her quick, fiery replies. This silence felt ominous. Instead, she texted my personal phone, something she hadn't done since firing me. The text popped up at midnight. Stop playing games. You're in over your head. I stared at the message. My breath caught in my throat. She wasn't confirming or denying anything. She was simply warning me. It was a threat, meant to scare me off, but I'd already made up my mind. I recalled an old memory of Clarissa praising me during an annual review. You're too honest, Lynn, I like that. It keeps everyone on their toes. The memory turned sour now. She never wanted honesty. She wanted a scapegoat she could dispose of at her convenience. I typed back, I won't stop until the truth's out, then hit send. My hands were shaky, but my resolve was firm. The next day, Jonah sent me a file labeled server room footage. It was security camera video from 3 nights before the embezzlement accusations surfaced. In the dimly lit hallway, Derek appeared around midnight, swiping his keycard to enter the server room. He was alone. I watched closely, my breath tight. Derek moved to a terminal in the corner, typed furiously, then plugged in a USB. The camera timestamp showed he stayed there for nearly 20 minutes, occasionally glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone. Then he left. It might not have seemed sinister to an outsider, but to me, it screamed guilt. Derek had no reason to be in that server room, especially at that hour. If Clarissa was telling the truth about me stealing funds, why was her husband snooping around the servers in the dead of night? I pictured him carefully crafting the digital paper trail under my name. I forwarded the footage to Marisol with a brief message. One more piece of the puzzle. That night, I paced the floor, feeling equal parts fear and triumph. We were one step closer to exposing him. But I also knew that at any moment, Derek or Clarissa could turn the tables again. While digging through Derek's files, Jonah and I began to see a much bigger picture. This wasn't just about $85,000. Larger sums had been quietly funneled into luxury investments over the last year. Real estate, cars, and even a private boat slip at some marina out of state. We found multiple fake consulting invoices, each listing no actual services but hefty fees. Derek had perfected a system, funnel money from the company to fake vendors, then transfer it to personal investments. It was a well-crafted shell game, but the most shocking part was the hush payments. Former employees who had resigned under mysterious circumstances apparently received large lump sums. Some had been involved in previous finance or compliance roles. This meant Clarissa and Derek had been buying silence long before they framed me. I felt sick. I pictured each hush payment as another destroyed life. Someone who might have tried to speak up but was silenced by a big check. Now, they'd tried to silence me by pushing me out with accusations instead. I realized the theft was on a scale I hadn't imagined. The $85,000 was only the final piece. They picked me, a trusted financial analyst, as a convenient fall girl. And in doing so, they betrayed every ounce of loyalty I'd shown. I got a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was shaky. My name is Denise. I work in HR at Vane & Co. I want to help you. At first, I was suspicious. But Denise sounded desperate. She said, I was forced to alter records to support your firing. They threatened my job, but I'm done. My heart raced. This was confirmation from inside the company that they had tampered with my files. I asked how she found me. She said quietly, Jonah told me you're fighting back. I can't live with the guilt. Denise revealed that Clarissa had personally ordered her to adjust timestamps and modify my HR file to show a previous warning about ethical concerns. That warning never existed in reality. It was all part of creating a paper trail, so my termination appeared legitimate. She was willing to testify to authorities if I could guarantee her some protection. I told her I couldn't guarantee anything, but I'd do my best to keep her name out until the right moment. When I hung up, I felt both relief and anger swirling together. Clarissa and Derek had coerced staff into lying. Now, for the first time, an insider was ready to speak up. I spent a sleepless week compiling every piece of evidence. The server logs, the cloned laptop data, The security footage, the ghost vendor transactions, Denise's testimony, and the hush payment records. It all added up to nearly 40 pages, plus screenshots and file attachments. I called it Project Truth. I sent it all to Marisol in one massive encrypted folder. In my cover email, I wrote, "This is everything I have. If something happens to me, please don't let this disappear." Marisol replied an hour later, "I've reviewed the highlights. This is enough to open a full-scale investigation. Expect to hear from regulators soon." I closed my laptop, breathing heavily. It was out of my hands now. A wave of relief hit me, followed by a surge of terror. Clarissa and Derek would soon realize I wasn't staying silent. And if they reacted like cornered animals, who knew what they might do next? I called Jonah and Denise to warn them. "Hold tight," I said. "We might face blowback." Still, none of us wavered. The truth was about to be unleashed, and there was no going back. 2 weeks later, the regulatory authority, Marisol's agency, stormed the offices of Vane & Co. They brought official documents, investigators, and forensic accountants. A friend inside the building texted me, "They're here. It's chaos." Within hours, Clarissa was leaving frantic voicemails on my phone, each more panicked than the last. "Leah, let's discuss this privately," she pleaded in one. "We can resolve this without involving outsiders," she begged in another. Her confident, controlling tone was gone. She sounded desperate. I didn't answer. Why should I? She gave me no courtesy when she dragged my name through the mud. Now she wanted a quiet settlement, a hush-hush deal so her empire wouldn't crumble? I had no intention of letting them cover this up. Denise confirmed that the investigators seized HR records. Jonah reported that IT logs were pulled for forensic review. Every shred of evidence we'd uncovered was being validated, including Derek's suspicious activities. Part of me was glad I wasn't there to witness the meltdown. But another part wished I could see Clarissa's face as the investigators revealed each illegal scheme. After weeks of shame and despair, the tide was finally turning. The next day, my phone blew up again, this time with a different tone. News outlets were reporting, Vane & Co. under investigation for internal fraud. Clarissa and Derek's pictures were plastered across headlines. Stories detailed suspicious transactions and possible wrongful termination. I found my name mentioned in articles that criticized Vane & Co. for labeling me a thief without proper proof. A few journalists actually reached out to me for comment. I made a brief statement, carefully worded. "I'm cooperating with the authorities and I stand by my innocence." Social media changed overnight. On Twitter, people started tweeting things like #justice for Leah. The same online mob that once labeled me scum now slammed Clarissa for destroying my life. My public image shifted from a guilty outcast to a potential whistleblower. The company's stock price plummeted. Shareholders launched their own probe. Analysts predicted the fallout would be huge, affecting not just Clarissa's reputation, but the entire firm's future. As I scrolled through these updates, a strange calm settled over me. I was relieved, yes, but also numb. This was the public vindication I'd hoped for, yet I realized how much damage had been done to my personal life. Still, I had finally cleared a path toward the truth. With the investigation in full swing, I decided it was time to speak for myself. Publicly. I recorded a short video in my sparse apartment, camera propped on a few books. I looked straight into the lens, feeling my pulse race. "I'm Leah Collins," I began. "I was accused of stealing $85,000 from Vane & Co., but the truth is, I didn't steal a single cent. I was framed." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. I explained, briefly, how I discovered the fake vendor accounts, how Derek orchestrated them, and how Clarissa helped cover it up. I kept it simple and direct, stating that official investigators were now involved. But most importantly, I said near the end, I stole back my life. I refused to let false accusations define me. I uploaded the video to every platform I could. Within hours, it went viral. My email inbox began filling with messages from strangers offering support. People shared stories about being wronged by big companies. Hashtags about my innocence trended. Sitting in my kitchen that night, I finally felt some peace. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't alone. Thousands believed me, because I had the proof and the will to stand up for myself. Not long after my video went viral, Clarissa held a press conference. Standing behind a podium, she looked nothing like her old confident self. Her eyes were red, and she stammered through prepared notes. "I regret certain oversight failures in my company," she said. "I have decided to step down as CEO." She claimed she had no idea about Derek's activities, sobbing as she described her shock and betrayal. But it felt like a performance. Within a day, Derek was arrested at their lake house. Photos emerged of him in handcuffs, refusing to speak to reporters. A headline ran, "Vane & Co. consultant charged with fraud and embezzlement." I watched the coverage from my living room floor, leaning against a bare wall where my couch used to be. I felt relief wash over me, but also sadness. So many careers had been impacted by these two. Derek's greed and Clarissa's hunger for control destroyed the company's integrity. Social media exploded with updates about Derek's arrest. Some insiders revealed that Clarissa had thrown him under the bus to save her own skin, providing evidence to prosecutors. Their once power couple image shattered, and so did the lies they'd built around me. The day I got the official letter clearing my name was unforgettable. It stated that the authorities found no evidence of wrongdoing on my part. Instead, they confirmed significant fraud orchestrated by Derek, with Clarissa's active or willful complicity. Soon after, my lawyer told me that I was entitled to a settlement for wrongful termination, defamation, and emotional damages. I almost couldn't believe the figure. $2.3 million. My jaw dropped when she read the numbers out loud. I thought back to that humiliating moment when Clarissa announced my embezzlement in front of everyone. She painted me as a criminal. Now the world knew the truth. And the payout was a stark reminder that they couldn't just walk all over my reputation. News outlets covered it as a triumph story. Woman falsely accused of fraud receives record settlement. I saw my face again in headlines, but this time it felt like justice instead of a curse. Walking down the street, I no longer feared judgmental stares or hushed whispers. If anyone recognized me, it was often to congratulate me or share a supportive word. The heavy weight I'd carried for weeks lifted, and I could finally breathe freely. Just when I thought my story was winding down, a powerful venture capital firm reached out to me. They specialized in funding innovative startups, but had a strict code of ethics. After seeing my viral video and the coverage of my case, they believed I could help them enforce higher standards. They offered me a role leading ethics audits for their portfolio companies. I nearly dropped the phone when I heard the position's title and the salary. After so much rejection and fear, it felt surreal to be wanted for a job that aligned perfectly with everything I'd learned. I met with their senior partners in a glass-walled conference room in downtown. They listened as I explained how I detected the fraud at Vane & Co., what it was like to be framed, and how I still trusted good accounting and transparency to keep businesses honest. They were impressed. By the end of the meeting, I had a formal offer in hand. My story wasn't just a cautionary tale. These VCs wanted to turn it into a case study for other companies. It felt like the best possible outcome, turning my nightmare into a lesson for preventing future injustices. It happened on a Tuesday. I was stepping out of my new office building, feeling proud of my fresh start, when I heard a shaky voice call my name. "Leah?" I turned to see Clarissa standing there, wearing oversized sunglasses. She looked frail, almost a ghost of her former self. I froze, a rush of emotions flooding my mind: anger, pity, frustration, and a strange sadness. She approached me slowly, glancing around as if embarrassed to be recognized. "Please, Leah," she said softly. "Is there any way you can help me? My lawyers say I could still face criminal charges if more evidence points my way." I couldn't believe the nerve. After everything she'd done to me, she wanted my help. My jaw clenched. "Why would I do that?" I asked. She lowered her gaze. "I lost everything," she whispered. "Derek's in jail. Our accounts are frozen. I can't launch my new brand. I'm ruined." I looked her straight in the eye. "I'm sorry for your troubles, but it's not up to me. Let the law decide." I turned to walk away, and she grabbed my arm, tears on her cheeks. "Please." I pulled free, my voice steady. "You fired me for a crime I never committed. Now I won't commit another one by lying for you." Clarissa sank back, defeated, and in that moment I saw that her power had truly vanished. I never heard from Clarissa again after that day. Word was she avoided jail time thanks to a plea deal, but her finances were in shambles. Derek stayed behind bars awaiting trial. Their lavish empire had crumbled, and the name Vane & Co. dissolved into headlines about corporate fraud. As for me, I settled into my new position with the VC firm. My team and I visited startups, auditing their financial systems, teaching them to guard against corruption, and urging them to protect their honest employees. Everywhere I went, people recognized my story. Some asked me to speak at company events, and I gladly did. If sharing my experience prevented another injustice, it was worth it. My personal life began to heal too. With the settlement, I found a comfortable apartment, replaced my furniture, and started planning a small vacation to celebrate a fresh start. Gone were the days of living in fear. Yet the real victory wasn't the money or the new job. It was the moment I realized my voice had power. I could stand up against a toxic boss, even one as formidable as Clarissa Vane, and come out stronger. In the end, the truth mattered, and that truth set me free.